color and we come in all shades of anger. And did you hear my sister screaming yesterday as she gave birth at a checkpoint with Israeli soldiers looking between her legs for their next demographic threat?
What the fuck?
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to the Struggle Video News. We start with this image from a screenshot of 2 weeks ago when Israel was bombing Gaza. It's from a video. In the video, a girl with a twisted leg is walking away from a wrecked home for people with disabilities. A Palestinian woman writes, horrific, unbelievable footage captures the devastating aftermath of a despicable act at targeting children with disabilities in Gaza. Israeli occupation warplanes aimed at and demolished their residence in Jabalia, North Gaza. Sometimes vague mush is good news. The Biden administration came out with its long-awaited campaign against anti-Semitism and did not base it on defense of apartheid Israel. The Zionists wanted the U.S. to center the campaign around a definition of anti-Semitism created by the IHRA that includes examples of anti-Semitism. The problem is some of these examples would declare strong criticism of Israel to be anti-Semitic. Here's one of the examples in that definition that the Zionists love, claiming that the existence of the State of Israel is a racist endeavor. Human rights groups like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and even a number of Israeli groups see Israel as practicing apartheid and routinely say so. That's as racist as you can get if you practice apartheid. But by this IHRA example, they'd all be considered anti-Semitic. Here's another one. Drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. Well, why would that be anti-Semitic? If something is viciously racist, it can be compared to Nazi practices, no matter who does it. Why not? Let me give you an example. Back in 1995, a history professor compared children of Jewish settlers to Hitler Youth. This professor worked at Hebrew University. By the IHRA definition, this Israeli Jewish expert on Nazi Germany would be considered an anti-Semite. In announcing a campaign against anti-Semitism, Biden mentioned the IHRA definition, but also said there were other definitions that were useful. This statement was pretty much a bunch of nothing, but it wasn't damaging, at least. The 200% Zionist New York Post had an alarming headline about this. It said, Jewish groups extremely disturbed and say Biden blew it on policy to counter anti-Semitism. On the other hand, a number of anti-racist Jewish groups were pleased. I'd count this as one small victory and compliment Jewish Voice for Peace and all the other groups that worked against this crappy Zionist definition of anti-Semitism. You remember our past program showing a religious Zionist mob in Jerusalem on a self-proclaimed Israeli Flag Day. Here's what the phony anti-hate leader Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL has to say about it. He compares the hateful mob with a few courageous Palestinians who had the guts to defy them. From his lofty perch, he condemns them both. Now more of the rally in White Plains, New York on Nakba Day.
I wrote this poem when we were doing a direct action at my university, and there were Palestinian citizens and Israeli soldiers, and and I'm very petty about these things, so I said I will only be a Palestinian. I refuse to be a settler or a soldier. So I was lying on the ground, and this guy came and kicked me in the guts and said, "You deserve to be raped before you have your terrorist children." At the time I said nothing, but then I wrote this poem for this young gentleman. اسمحوا لي أن أتكلم بلساني العربي قبل أن يحتلوا لغتي أيضا. Allow me to speak my Arab tongue before they occupy my language as well. Allow me to speak my mother tongue before they colonize her memory as well. I am an Arab woman of color, and we come in all shades of anger. All my grandfather ever wanted to do was wake up at dawn and watch my grandmother kneel and pray in a village hidden between Jaffa and Haifa. My mother was born under an olive tree on a soil they say is no longer mine, but I will cross their barriers, their checkpoints, their damn apartheid walls, and return to my homeland. I am an Arab woman of color, and we come in all shades of anger. And did you hear my sister screaming yesterday as she gave birth at a checkpoint with Israeli soldiers looking between her legs for their next demographic threat? Called her baby girl Janine. And did you hear Amne Muna screaming behind their prison bars as they tear-gassed her cell? We are returning to Palestine. I am an Arab woman of color, and we come in all shades of anger. But you tell me this womb inside of me will only bring you your next terrorist. Beard-wearing, gun-waving, towel-head, sand nigger. You tell me I send my children out to die, but those are your copters, your F-16s in our skies. And let's talk about this terrorism business for a second. Wasn't it the CIA that killed Alende and Lumumba? And who trained Osama in the first place? My grandparents didn't run around like clowns with white capes and white hoods on their heads lynching black people. An Arab woman of color, and we come in all shades of anger. So who's that brown woman screaming in a demonstration? Sorry, should I not scream? I forgot to be your every Orientalist dream. Genie in a bottle, belly dancer, harem girl, soft-spoken Arab woman. Yes, master. No, master. Thank you for the peanut butter sandwiches raining down on us from your F-16s, master. Yes, my liberators are here to kill my children and call them collateral damage. I am an Arab woman of color, and we come in all shades of anger. So let me just tell you, this womb inside of me will only bring you your next rebel. She'll have a rock in one hand and a Palestinian flag in...
We would like the People's Stop Cop City to come closer, and the DSA folks. And
we need to come and speak, please, on Puerto Rican solidarity.
Today is a very special day that is being marked all over the world and across the U.S., and we are part of it. I'm glad that we are having it. I'm glad that we're having it. I don't need the mic. I have a powerful voice.
No, you do.
Anyway, it's doing an event here in the capital of the Westchester, showing the diversity of our community in support of the Palestinian people, in recognition of the historical crime of Nakba. And as Puerto Ricans, we share the pain and the experience of colonialism. Puerto Rico, over 100 years, has been under the domination of the U.S. And just to note that in 1948, while Palestine was taken, Puerto Rico was hit with the most vicious McCarthyite era, infamous gag law, which was meant to destroy the Puerto Rican independence movement.
two young Palestinian twins, Muna and Muhammad al-Kurd. And Muhammad al-Kurd has actually been here very active in Students for Justice in Palestine, working with PYF. Their grandmother, who was an amazing, amazing, amazing woman, she died last year, but she stood and refused all the attacks on her, the garbage that the Zionist kids were throwing at her, the feces, the urine, the curses, and she kept saying, I will not leave my home, I will stand there. And it's really important to remember all this history. We can't do it all in this short rally. We can only give you a little bit of snippets and then come back and do more education, more discussion, because we ourselves are very hungry to learn more. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our brothers in Palestine, the Naturi Karta, who are going to do a couple of minutes of chant.
Assalamu alaikum to everyone. We have came here to join the 75 Nakba Day to commemorate the Nakba what the Zionists did in Palestine. Especially we came because the Zionists trying to use the religion, the Jewish religion, to justify the crimes they're committing. And then they can say, if anybody stand up against them, they can say that you're an anti-Semite. Therefore we came out to say no. The Jewish religion forbids to kill, to steal, to oppress people, and even without that, Jewish religion forbids for Jews to have their own sovereignty since almost 2,000 years ago, since the destruction of the temple. Then since then we are not allowed to have our own sovereignty, even without killing, without stealing, without doing everything. And that's why it's important to come out as a religious Jew and say it's not true, and you should stand up against the racism, against the apartheid state of Israel, and you're not anti-Semite by doing that.
My pleasure next is to introduce, my comrade, my brother, Harry Soloway, who is here representing Jewish Voice for Peace. I always say voices, but the name of the organization is Jewish Voice for Peace. And we've been struggling over many, many, many struggles, but I will give the microphone to speak.
Thank you, Rabab. Thank you, Nada. I want to wish everyone here peace and health. More important, I want to wish peace and health to everyone around the world that's suffering under the heel of oppression. My name is Harry Soloway, as Rabab said. I'm from Jewish Voice for Peace. I am a Jewish American and I am an anti-Zionist. If you bear with me, I just want to spend a second talking about myth and reality. 75 years ago, when Israel was founded, the so-called State of Israel was founded, the reality was the Nakba. But the myth that was propagated, and the myths that are still propagated today, are a land without people and a people for a people without land. And the myth that was propagated was the State of Israel would be the safe haven for Jews. And I'm sure everybody here agrees that after World War II, after the Holocaust, the Jewish people deserved a safe place to live, a place where they could live in peace and justice. Unfortunately, the myth was that if they killed 15,000 people to found the nation of Israel, that would make them safe. The reality is, it does not make anybody safe. Murder does not make anybody safe. The myth is that if they expulsed 750,000 Palestinians, that the Jews would be safe. The reality is that nobody is safe by that kind of brutality. The myth is And if you could destroy the Palestinian culture and people and livelihoods, that it would be safe. But that doesn't create safety for anybody. And through the years, the myth persisted, well, if we continue to displace people from their homes, if we place people in military occupation, if we occupy more land and take over more land, that will make for safety. That never makes for safety. The myth was if we create an apartheid state, that they would be safe. But we know that apartheid does not create safety. So I want to be brief, but I do want to expose one or two other myths. One is that Zionism is Judaism. That's a myth. That is not true. The myth is that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. That is not true. It's a myth. The reality is that when all people of humanity join together with the resilience, the continuing resilience of the Palestinian people, safety will come for all, peace will come for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Harry, by the way, was a crucial part of organizing today. So Rabab and I thank him very much, and all of JDP. Thank you. Is there a representative of Stop Cop City that is here who would like to speak? Stop Cop City? Yeah.
Hi everyone, thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Emma. I'm a part of a Stop Cop City coalition in Connecticut. I'm also a part of Workers' Voice, which is an internationalist socialist group. I just wanted to talk about connecting the fight for environmental justice and the fight against the militarization of the police, specifically around Stop Cop City and Palestinian liberation. Why should we connect these issues? Well, for one thing, they have a common enemy, imperialism. The US-backed apartheid regime has been destroying Palestinian lands and making self-sufficiency in occupied territories impossible. Many Palestinians don't have access to safe drinking water due to direct theft by Zionists. Here in the United States, we see similar situations caused by environmental destruction. It primarily affects poor, Black, Native, and Latino people, as well as poor white workers. We see it in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, and we will see this with the building of Cop City in Atlanta. Cop City is set to destroy a large portion of the Weelaunee Forest. It's proposed to be a large police training facility with full city blocks and explosion testing facilities. And it's going to be built directly next to a Black working class community. The construction will cause these communities to experience worse and worse flooding, along with a host of other major ecological impacts. And this is just the start to Cop Cities. There's many more proposed around the country. Why Cop Cities? One reason is that corporations and their state are using militarized policing to protect fossil capitalism. We see this with oil pipelines, some of the most destructive things in our society. But we also see it with communities that become front lines of capitalism's war on the climate. American police are trained by the Israeli Defense Force. They are trained to be an occupying force in oppressed communities. Cop cities are a way of deepening these practices. We can expect that the IDF members will also be trained in cop cities. We need to fight against cop cities, and we need to be explicit in our connection with the struggle for Palestinian liberation. We also need to learn from those Palestinians that are a part of the fight. We need to fight against the repression of Palestinian activists, along with the defense of Cop City and all the political activists facing repression. To do this, we need to build a movement that can mobilize millions. It needs to be based in working class communities, and it needs to involve organizations like trade unions. It also needs to be international. Thank you so much for letting me speak. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. Now a representative of the local chapter of DSA, Democratic Socialists of America.
Speaking for the Lower Hudson Valley Democratic Socialists of America, we are here in solidarity with the struggle for a free Palestine. As the speakers before me said, the struggle for Palestinian freedom is an international one. As we live under these international systems of capital that use our tax money, the money we produce right here with our labor, and use them to commit murder, to commit ethnic cleansing. These systems of capitalism demand incredible violence across the world.
John Jairo Lugo giving the closing speech on May Day in New Haven, and following that, the march across the green into New Haven City Hall.
Every person represents wage theft and evictions.
Pero la buena noticia del día de hoy,
the good news about today,
es que primero les voy a presentar a la compañera Karin García. Ella es de Guatemala.
I'm going to introduce Karim Garcia from Guatemala.
Y Karin estaba peleando su deportación.
Karim has been fighting her deportation.
Y la semana pasada ganó su asilo político.
And last week she won her political asylum. Woo!
Okay, la otra buena noticia es que ustedes conocen que Unidad Latina lucha contra el robo salarial.
The other good news is that you know that Unidad Latina works towards stopping wage theft.
So, a few days, hace unas semanas atrás, una compañera reportó que le estaban robando el salario en un restaurante muy reconocido en la ciudad de New Haven.
A comrade reported that a very known restaurant is stealing their wages.
Porque los pinches restaurantes todavía creen que pueden hacer las ganancias a costa de los trabajadores.
Because the effing restaurants, listen, there's kids out here. Because the effing restaurants believe that they can still make money by exploiting their workers.
Entonces 20 de nosotros fuimos y le dijimos al señor, tiene que pagarle a la compañera lo que le ha robado.
So 20 of us went to that restaurant and we told them, you have to pay our comrade what you stole from them.
Y adivinen.
And guess what? Guess what John is holding on his hands?
Nos dieron el cheque y se lo voy a dar a la compañera Sara, que es una compañera colombiana recién llegada aquí a los Estados Unidos.
And this check is being given to Sarah, who just arrived to the United States a few months ago.
AAUP professor. Anyway, you coming tomorrow? All right, I'll see you tomorrow. All right. And I'm going to give it to everybody because they need people. Oh, good. No. What the fuck? He has a big bushy. You know how Steve knows him? Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely.
The way you say in that driver.
Yeah, you know that big one where they the money laundering.
I should be involved in I'll bring the spirit. Yeah.
No problem, buddy.
Ven para acá, Samara. Para ir adelante. Ven para acá.
The vicious diplomat and statesman Henry Kissinger is turning 100. The establishment loves his wisdom. His bloody fingerprints were all over the overthrow of Allende in Chile. He gave the green light for the ghastly Indonesian invasion of East Timor and the so-called Dirty War in Argentina. A news story recently broke on the internet showing the mayhem he brought to the people of Cambodia. The best condemnation of Kissinger came from the late food and travel TV personality Anthony Bourdain. Democracy Now! Reports on what he said.
Then you have the late celebrity chef, Anthony Bourdain, who once said, "Once you've been to Cambodia, you'll never stop wanting to beat Henry Kissinger to death with your bare hands. You'll never again be able to open a newspaper and read about that treacherous, prevaricating, murderous scumbag sitting down for a nice chat with Charlie Rose or attending some black tie affair for a new glossy magazine without choking. Witness what Henry did in Cambodia, the fruits of his genius for statesmanship, and you'll never understand why he's not sitting in the dock at The Hague next to Milosevic." Now, those were the words of Anthony Bourdain.
That's our program for today. I'm Stanley Heller for the Struggle Video News.